we'll go ahead and get started. We'll call to order the January 22nd meeting of the Pacheco Stormwater District. And we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so first item of business, we will take public comment. This is on any item that's not on the agenda. So is there any public comment? Victor?
The Pacheco Stormwater District welcomes your comments. Each individual speaker will be limited to a presentation total of 3 minutes. When addressing the trustees via Zoom, phone, or in chambers, please say your name and county in which you reside for the record. Please address the trustees as a whole through the chair. If participating via Zoom, select the Participants tab and click the raised hand icon. If you are using a phone, please press star 9 to raise your hand. When your turn arrives, you will hear that you have been unmuted. If you are participating in person at the chambers, please complete a speaker card identifying the item on which you wish to speak and provide your completed card to the clerk prior to consideration of the item. Speaker cards are available on the table at the entrance to the chambers. There appears to be no public comment.
Okay, then we will move on to the consent agenda. So is there a motion to approve the items on the consent agenda?
A motion that we approve the items on the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
I second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, so the consent agenda is approved. Now we will move on to the regular agenda. The first item, as always, is an update regarding debris removal and levee repair. So Steve, please take it away.
All right, good evening, trustees. Steve Luke, Public Works Administrator for the county. And yeah, we have some good news on both those fronts. As of, I think, the last meeting, I'm not 100% sure of this, but all the debris removal from between Lover's Lane and San Felipe Road in that stretch is completed and out of the creek. It's on the side of the levees. There's 3 large piles of debris, and the fire department has given us permission to burn those piles. They'll want to make a visit first before we do that, and it'll probably happen when the weather gets a little bit warmer. Some of the debris is still a little bit damp out there. But so that task is complete. And regarding the levee repairs, so essentially there was 4 breaches. 2 of the 4 breaches have been repaired. The other 2, I'll discuss a small one. There's a small one. It's about 35 feet long, maybe 7 feet high, and about 20 feet deep. That one still needs to be repaired. And then pretty close to that one is the larger debris, or excuse me, the levee breach. That one, because the property owner was proactive, it's 1/2 to 2/3 repaired, but we still need to complete the repair of that levee breach. And we have put together a plan set, and we released that to the same contractor that performed the debris removal for that area. One thing we don't know yet at this time, but we're not going to wait, is usually when we do levee repairs, we need to do hydroseed or do some planting. And for all the locations, we'll probably need to do that. As of this morning, I talked to FEMA, and their environmental folks still had not provided us direction on what kind of hydro seeding or vegetation replanting we'd have to do. Usually it's just seeding the slopes is usually what's required. So we don't know the answer to that, but we've released the plans for hopefully a bid price to come in to repair those last two areas. And then the levee repairs will be finished, and then hopefully next meeting I'll be able to provide some pictures. We won't have any hydro seeding green growth, I don't think, by next month, but hopefully the levees will be finished being repaired by the next time we meet. So that is the status of those two tasks. So I'll pause for questions or comments.
Great, thank you, Steve. I just wanted to clarify, one of the breaches, the two of them are, we're hoping will be repaired by the same contractor that did the debris removal in that area. The other two breaches, one of them was repaired by the property owner already. And then the fourth breach, the one at Lover's Lane, the county county crew went ahead and did that, correct?
Correct, yeah. Fortunately for both of those, just the way they were oriented and the way the breach happened, all the repairs were able to happen outside of the creek channel itself, which was nice. When we install the riprap and do some things for these last locations, they're gonna have to probably get into the creek a little bit. But yeah, so that's correct. The county actually helped repair we repaired the Lover's Lane area. We had some material from another levee area, and so we spent a few days out there and we got that one finished. So that was a good thing. So.
Great, thank you. So is there any comment or questions from the trustees?
I just have a question. So last time we met, it was going to be urgently fixed in a matter of temporary. Is that what that one is, or is that a permanent fix already on it?
So all the ones that have been fixed have been permanently fixed, except for the hydro seeding of the slope. So we still have to do that, but they're permanently fixed. And then the last one is the finalizing of that permanent fix for that last third of the height of the levee for about 200 feet. So it's a long stretch, but they'll all be permanent fixes to answer your question. So.
Thank you.
And do we know, Steve, I guess we're still waiting for the bid, right? We're just working with the one contractor. We're waiting for the bid. Do we have any idea how long it'll be before that's repaired?
We don't, and I should have done things faster, but I talked to the contractor tonight, so he's aware of the plans, and one of the teammates of I've been talking to the contractor. We just sent that out today, basically. So they haven't had much time to really digest it, and I still have to send them a little bit more information, I think, to help them provide a bid. So hopefully soon. They've been reaching out to me saying we want to fix it, and so hopefully it'd be great if we could even start this week. We'll see, but I don't know the answer to that. So.
Okay, great. Yeah, I know we have some sunny weather coming up later in the week. Okay, is there any public comment on this agenda item?
If you'd like to make a comment in chambers, please provide a speaker card, and on Zoom use the raise hand icon featuring by dialing *9. It appears we have a public comment in chambers.
Okay.
I guess it's a presumption on
Please state your name.
Mark Schroeder, Lover's Lane. Yes, quick question. I'm presuming that we're still under the emergency authorizations. How long does that go? Oh, okay. And second, this is going to sound a lot like, the never enough, never eased kind of citizen, a person on Lover's Lane, sorry, but I guess, is it not true that if there's a breach at any point along the levee, it's generally equivalently as bad because if the water gets up to a certain height, it's going to come out. I was wondering if that's accurate. So that would kind of cause there to be equivalent emergencies along any section that's not finished. This is a silly question. And I know it sounds a lot like, yeah, I'm never happy, but
Okay.
very happy actually.
Of course. Is there any other public comment, or should I?
Oh, maybe we should wait. Is there other public comment?
Yes, we have one public comment via Zoom. Anthony Patello, you have been unmuted.
Good evening, Madam Chair and Board. It's great, Steve, you got pretty much that channel cleared out of all those debris piles, and that's going to make a real big difference with the water flow and volume, moving those flood waters to where they need to go. As far as the repair the two breaches that are still left, and I was listening kind of your hydro seeding plan. Isn't the material that you would be using in those two remaining breaches heavy enough that really the hydro seeding shouldn't make any difference? I'm hoping that the contractor is using materials that is not just plain dirt, and that there's some real heavy rock and compaction that's going into these levee construction. And so the hydro seeding, I would think, would make little to no difference, from probably my own experience repairing our own levees on the length of our property. And maybe that should be what the emphasis ought to be. And secondly, the gentleman that spoke ahead of me, I kind of feel his concern. And is there some sort of analysis as far as what the channel capacity is above the district, south, east of the San Felipe Road, and what kind of volumes of water that, we could, kind of the capacity of the carrying load of the channel once the levees are repaired in the district, and whether or not that has, the same capacity outside of our district, which is, I think, is a big concern for a lot of us. Thank you.
We have an additional comment via Zoom. Rochelle Beerley, you have been unmuted.
Good evening. Good evening, everybody. I wanted to ask, based on the clean out comments, if anybody's been able to observe the water flow since the rain. I see the water level rose based on that NOAA website that I'm looking on. It's at about 4.6 feet. Normally it's at about 1 to 2 feet. So I'm just wondering if anybody had a chance to get out there to see if the clean out was effective and if the water's improvement is flowing well. My second comment for Mark Schroeder maybe on the levy factor. I wanted to point out that when we do flood out there, and we happen to have a big one, before any levees breach, we have right before the bridge, the Pacheco Creek Bridge, is that spot where it always comes over. And I don't know if that's considered a levee breach or what, but obviously the clean out's gonna help that from happening, for the first season at least. But I was wondering if we should discuss in future plans, shoring up that area too, because that's the turn, and we always seem to have a problem. And that's the end of my comment. Thank you.
Okay, there appears to be no additional public comments.
Okay, I'll try to take those in order. So when the trustees made the emergency proclamation during the last meeting, that gives us authorization to proceed with the repairs. Regarding the breach, as I guess a couple of the public commenters had mentioned, yeah, let's see how, I'll take a step back. One of the things that the county has requested to study is the cross sections of the whole creek for the whole watershed. We applied for one grant, and I don't know the status of that grant actually. If it's when the deadline is to be awarded or not awarded. But in summary, we really need to get a handle on what are the cross sections, what are the elevations of those top of banks, as a couple of folks have mentioned, a few folks have mentioned, and see, for what water level, where we have issues or don't have issues with spilling, because as was previously mentioned, before we had breaches, even during the last storms, when I was out there, it seemed like the water was already topping upstream of San Felipe Road. So, so we need to analyze the whole creek. I mean, it's not a county creek, it's almost all private properties, but we want to do an analysis to see what capacity we have for what kind of storms and where we need to make improvements. Otherwise, we're just, we've got this one stretch cleaned out really nice. Hopefully it's flowing better. I'll drive out there after this meeting and just kind of make some observations myself in regards to Miss Beerley's comments. But, and I do know that the water has risen just a couple feet from some other folks that I've talked to today, but I don't know the level that's the water's reached out there as of today, or as of this moment, I should say. And then regarding the hydro seeding, yes, and Mr. Mattel's comment is valid. We are using pretty dense material out there. Nevertheless, even in 2017, when we also used dense material to repair the levee, and those levees have held, they did not breach in those locations, FEMA required that we vegetate the slopes, or I guess I should say the result of the plans and the designs was that the slopes had to be vegetated. I don't know how much, hydro seeding helps if you have good material and backfill, if it's really necessary. Nevertheless, most of the agencies still want us to hydro seed the slopes, and it's environmentally friendly seed mix, so it's not going to hurt anything. It could slightly, possibly improve the stability of the slopes. So let's see, and then I think that answered the questions, but I'll wait for the trustees to remind me if I missed a question. You want to talk about that?
Good evening. My name is Madison Mitchell, and I'm from the San Benito County Office of Emergency Services. And I can give a brief update on our application status for the grant, which Steve referenced regarding the potential watershed study we requested. So unfortunately, with that grant, what happens is the grant opens during an active declared emergency or proclaimed emergency, depending. It will stay open with an opportunity for all of the jurisdictions impacted to submit project requests. So right now it is still open, and what happens is it eventually will close. We are not privy to that information. We don't know when the closure date will be, nor do we know when they will start allocating funds, should they even identify our project as an approved and eligible project. So as of right now, the current status, I checked on it about a week ago, it was pending Cal OES review. So Cal OES has not yet looked at our project request. I can continuously check that, and if there's any type of status update, I can make an announcement if you guys would like.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful. Thank you, Madison.
And actually, Madison reminded me, working with Congresswoman Lofgren's office, we've also submitted a request, and she's accepted the request to present a concept, a strategy to Congress to do a study to actually increase the volume that Soap Lake can hold. And that's a complicated question and a complicated request, but the concept is if more water can go to Soap Lake and be stored there, not only will that help Pacheco Creek, but it'll also help the Pajaro River. And so anecdotally, there's been more sediment and buildup in Soap Lake over the years, which has decreased the volume that it can hold. And so our request to Congress, and Zoe Lofgren's office actually reached out to us saying, are there any projects that might help Pajaro and the Pajaro River? And so she's going to submit that to Congress as well. But that's just going to be a study. But if it moves forward, that's a very good thing, because if we can get more volume into Soap Lake, I think that'll help things release and be stored there and not back up, towards Pacheco Creek near Lover's Lane and in that area. So I'll pause there. But
During the last floods, a lot of stuff, a lot of sediment.
You probably
I
hear.
understand.
You might wanna-
I'm sorry. Got it, just real quick. Mark Schroeder again, just a quick question on that last one. My understanding is during the last floods, there was a lot of sediment that was taken off in that direction. And I was just curious whether there would be any benefit if they were to dredge Soap Lake and basically take back the nutrient rich soil that got taken off, the topsoil was taken off of all the cropland from the various areas, including the back part of my property, which was refurbished by Grant Bryans through a USDA loan. So anyway, that's essentially my question. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a great question. That would be one of the benefits if we were allowed to dredge out Soap Lake, because I'm very certain there's some very usable, helpful soil. Obviously, it'd have to be tested and whatnot, but that would be analyzed, because we'd have to determine where we were going to, store that or move it, or what we were going to do with that sediment. But yeah, absolutely. If all that process moves forward, and it's kind of a big process, that would definitely be one of the benefits of that. So, yeah.
Okay, is there any further public comment or any further questions on this agenda item?
Question is, the dredging part of it, would that also include the creek? Digging up some of the bottom base of the creek and onto the actual levees, or?
So the application that the Congresswoman was requesting of us, well, let's see, to answer your question, it wouldn't extend all the way up into Pacheco Creek. It was basically for the Soap Lake area itself. It doesn't mean we can't try other avenues to, dredge out Pacheco Creek itself, but for that project, it was essentially the Soap Lake area. So.
Okay, so I guess we can move on now to the next agenda item. An update on the status of the FEMA applications, and so we actually have some good news here. So Steve, take it away, please.
We do have some good news. So for those that aren't familiar, this project in FEMA's world is kind of been broken into debris removal, and one FEMA team that's managing that project, and then the levee repairs and another team that's managing that project. And the levee repair project, as far as in FEMA's world, has actually moved forward quicker and faster for different reasons that I won't bore you with tonight. But the debris removal project, as far as paperwork and processing of reimbursement, has gone really slow because it was kind of it was basically put on hold by FEMA because FEMA wasn't sure that the district had legal authority to go into the creek and remove debris. And so it actually took an act of Congress, believe it or not, and Congresswoman Lofgren's office, she reached out to the head of FEMA for this region to look at that request by the district to say, yes, please determine that we are a legal district and we can remove debris out of the creek. And the good news is, and the trustees here were involved in that discussion and in that effort, the good news is that FEMA has determined that, yes, the district has legal authority to remove debris out of the creek. So what that means is we can move forward with the processing of invoices and requests for payment. It does not guarantee we're going to be reimbursed for all of our efforts, but it allows the district to start submitting more information and then the invoices from the contractors, and then hopefully that will get reimbursed by FEMA. So that was a really big hurdle. Very good news. So we're excited about that. And then regarding the levee repair process and application, it's still stuck in FEMA's environmental group. Unfortunately, I talked to our FEMA rep this morning. She confirmed that it's still kind of stuck in that group, and we would like some guidance on if there's going to be any vegetation or hydroseeding. That's the group that determines those type of things, and so we're looking forward to having their environmental group provide us with some guidance. Again, we'll be able to complete the repairs, but we are looking for some guidance from their environmental group on some environmental aspects. And so I'll pause there for public comment or questions.
And then, Steve, we have a meeting actually on Wednesday morning with our FEMA rep on the debris removal side, right? To see
Correct.
what the next steps are.
Now that's
so.
reactivating. I reached out to her and she reached out to us, and we have a meeting, that's correct, 8:30 on Wednesday to talk about all those good things of trying to get some reimbursement for the debris removal. So yes, that's also good news.
Okay, are there any questions or comments by the trustees? Okay, public comment.
If you'd like to make a comment in chambers, please provide a speaker card, and on Zoom, use the raise hand icon featuring by dialing *9. It appears we have a public comment via Zoom. Anthony Patello, you've been unmuted.
Thank you again. Steve, that is good news, and I really appreciate the explanation on the hydroseeding. That makes sense, and we got to do what we have to do, certainly. But getting that reimbursement from FEMA, putting us in that position to kind of recoup those dollars that the county laid out for us, that's huge. And I think all of us are appreciative of your continued work, and the trustees have done a great job in that effort to stay on this and make that a priority, and it makes it easier to move forward in the future when things come up and we need a little help from our partner agencies. So sometimes you deserve a pat on the back. Maybe take that reimbursement, and county might apply it to the roads that I know is a continuous battle. But keep up the good work. Thanks.
There appears to be no additional public comment.
were you going to say something? No? Okay.
And if the trustees had further comments.
Oh, I don't think so. But I will take the pat on the back. Thank you, Mr. Batella. And Steve, too, all of us. So, okay. So moving along then to 5.3, this is an update from the Advisory Board on Grant Opportunities. So, you know, we're happy that we're finally moving forward with FEMA and that the repairs are almost done. And now we're trying to look forward to the future, right? And how do we deal with things on a long-term basis? And one of the things that we've been looking into is grant opportunities, because of course we don't have a good revenue source. We get about $1,300 a year. That's our revenue, and so we need to expand on that. So we've had a couple of meetings. First, in December, Lucinda Floric on the advisory board and myself met with Steve and Madison provided us with a lot of good information about creating an account with Cal OES, and because that's a source of potential grants, right? And that money comes from both federal sources, from FEMA and also from the state, and some money from FEMA funneled through Sacramento. And so Lucinda has created an account for us and also filed an intent, or I guess, I don't know what you would call it, maybe a statement of interest for a hazard mitigation plan grant. And we've talked about hazard mitigation plans before. This would be a grant to help us to pay to have a hazard mitigation plan done. Then we also had a meeting this month, and we talked about the Cal OES opportunities, and also we talked about USD, perhaps pursuing some opportunities through USDA. We also talked about the Resource Conservation, is it District? RCD, is that what it stands for? Resource Carmender's group? That's, yes, yeah. RCD, the RCD. Yes, and advisory board member Rochelle Beerley reached out to them actually at the end of last year, or in the fall, and they sound like they might be interested in partnering with us, or at least talking with us a little bit more about different grants that we could apply for together, possibly working together. So those are some of the things that we're pursuing, and it's going to be a long process, but we will keep at it. And anyway, I'll stop there and see if Lucinda or Rochelle or anybody has any comments. Yes, do we have any, okay, so we have one comment in chambers, so go ahead.
Mark Schroeder, quick question. Has there been any attempt to look into funding via the original creators of the waterways in the way of the creek beds, which were presumably actually or funneling water rather than actually being nature born creeks, I gather. So in that case, I guess in a weird way, might there be a Army Corps of Engineers warranty of sorts, although it seems like we might have avoided the warranty by not taking care of it over these years. But I was just curious whether Army Corps of Engineers or something to that effect, them having built it to begin with, whether that might be an option.
Okay, thank you. Before we move on to Steve, are there any other public comments?
Yes, we have a public comment via Zoom. Rochelle Beerley, you have been unmuted.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on the point that Michelle just made. I did reach out again to Carminder Brown, and I actually applied just online for a grant that I got via an email from her, and that is called the Enhanced Farmland for Pollinators, Crops, and Soil Grants. Basically, it's field borders, trees and shrub establishments along waterways, I guess stabilizing the area so it for erosion. And I did apply for that. Haven't heard anything back, and I did also reach out to Carminder again after the new year. Still waiting to hear back. So a couple of things there that are maybe moving, and I also reached out to the USDA department. And I have not heard back from them. So just wanted to let you know that things are still moving, though slowly. Thank you.
There appears to be no additional public comment.
Okay, so Steve, perhaps you could comment on the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers idea.
Yeah, it's a very good idea. County had the same idea. Every time we've reached out to Army Corps in this segment of the creek, they have not claimed jurisdiction. What they've noted is it was either back in the 40s or 50s, they built the very, very downstream portions of the levees, but for the majority of Pacheco Creek, the levees and banks, they don't claim jurisdiction. I think perhaps, as you noted, because perhaps property owners and farmers and ranchers and folks have affected the levees or built the levees up themselves a bit to some degree. So, so the Army Corps, the grants with the Army Corps, if we could have a nexus to somehow help the Pajaro River, we could possibly at some point reach out to them for a grant. But we'll keep it in mind. I'll say that. So, yeah. Thank you.
Okay, are there any other comments or questions? All right then, let's move on to 5.4. And this item regards the tree removal on the levee near the Lovers Lane Bridge. And we've discussed this before. And what I recall from the last meeting is that this again is my recollection, is that we weren't quite ready to take a vote on it, and that instead we were going to form a committee to see if we could explore a less expensive way to deal with this issue. That was my recollection. So anyway, I'll just leave it at that. And obviously the problem hasn't been fixed. It still exists. So I will open it up now for comments. Well, let's take comments or questions from the trustees first.
I hate to ask you this again, Steve, but did you happen to find out what jurisdiction there is from the bridge?
We searched, the county searched, we spent a couple days, one person, searching through all of our records, and we have not been able to locate the original bridge plans. So we'll make some assumptions that near the abutments, we're allowed to maintain those areas, and what we'll do is we'll project our right-of-way. So we have the right-of-way of Lovers Lane and San Felipe, and we'll project that right-of-way along the creek. One thing we're doing that will help in that effort permanently is we're putting together a list of all of the bridges that we think we want to have a stream bed maintenance agreement with Fish and Wildlife. And we'll obviously include San Felipe and Lovers Lane. And so that'll, if it's granted, that'll give us a blanket permit to maintain those areas. And from my research, Fish and Wildlife usually grant those type of permits as long as you comply with their regulations. They want you to maintain those areas. So long story short, I think we'll be able to clean up, Lover's Lane 30 feet outside the center line of the bridges. The county will be able to do that. So beyond that, I can't say. So.
Do you know how many of the trees that would include then, if you were able to go 30 feet?
There is one large tree on the corner that is within that area. It's probably the tallest tree on the southwest corner of the Lovers Lane Bridge. I'm not sure much beyond that one, but yeah. So.
Okay. And just to refresh our recollection, there were 7 trees in total, correct? And what my recollection was that it was 7 trees, and it was about 10,000 a tree was the estimate that we got, more or less.
More or less.
Roughly speaking.
You are correct.
Okay. All right. Okay. Any other comments from the trustees? Okay. So now let's go to public comment on this issue.
If you'd like to make a comment in chambers, please provide a speaker card, and on Zoom, use the raise hand icon featuring by dialing *9. It appears we have a public comment via Zoom. Anthony Botello, you have been unmuted.
Sorry if I'm talking too much tonight, but that $10,000 a tree, that's a backbreaker for this small district, and it's the trees that really cause the debris piles and cause levee breaches that end up costing a whole lot more money. Steve, I don't know if you had looked into it. I'm sure you have. You seem to be on top of everything. But I know San Juan last year or a year before, they cleaned out a little channel along the San Juan Elementary School with a prison crew, a fire prison crew, and just by hand cleaned out the brush and excess vegetation and things like that. And I just wonder if a CCC crew or a prison fire crew, and it's great training to, use equipment, hand equipment and things like that in a channel, and it's pretty cost effective from what I understand, is that it's just pay the expenses of bringing the crew out and feeding them and so forth. Have we looked into anything like that as possible options? I know RCD, when I was on that board years ago, we had a project and a grant that was ready to go, but we could never get the permits from Fish and Wildlife in time to clean the channel. But that's another option that maybe Rochelle is looking into. But anyway, that's my question, and appreciate that. Thank you.
We have another comment via Zoom. Rochelle Beerley, you have been unmuted.
I wanted to add on the point of jurisdiction, I guess, or what we can and can't do. And I would need some backup on that. But I've been looking over the Stormwater District Act of 1909 that was sent to me by Steve and a while back, and from what I can understand, it seems that we don't need to really be asking permission to go in there and do clean outs and maintenance. So again, I need some backup on that because I'm certainly no attorney and the wording is tricky, but Steve, Michelle, I don't know if you guys have had the chance to look over that, but it seems that we have carte blanche since it is our area to maintain. So That's my feedback.
Okay. There appears to be no additional public comment.
Oh, there is one.
Lucinda Flora, you could please approach the podium.
All right, thank you. Lucinda Flora, Lovers Lane. Yeah, I think you guys did a wonderful job cleaning the levees and stuff. So now, my biggest concern is because my house is so close to the Lovers Lane Bridge and these streets. And I just wanted to give you an update that the cleaning out is wonderful on the east side of the bridge, but on the west side of the bridge, there's quite a bit of debris or vegetation. And so my concern is when the water does come down, it's gonna be backed up and cause a problem and more of the levee to be eroded. An update on the trees. I think I mentioned last meeting that one of the trees fell down. A large one, very, very large one, is going right across from ours. And what happens there is that it actually causes the levee to get damaged. And so my house is right there, so I'm really concerned and scared that it's going to breach and something major is going to happen. And so lately another tree has fell. So now we have two trees, and it can be seen from the bridge. You can see these large trees going across the creek, and enough to, I think, impact the flow, the water flow, if we do have water flow, large water flow, because it's kind of like, I don't know, they're huge. But anyway, I just want to make sure I made that aware and not say nothing, but make everybody aware that it is a big concern for us, and that I'm hoping that we can have a good solution before something major happens to our property.
Okay,
It
thank you.
appears we have no
Lucinda.
additional public comment.
Okay, so I'm assuming that, so we talked about one tree, at least one tree that the county might have jurisdiction over, right? And
Yes.
then two trees fell down. I'm assuming that those two trees were also included in that 7? I don't know if the. Okay, well,
We originally got a price for 7, but
Yeah.
there's several trees, yes.
Okay. Well, the trees that fell down, I'm assuming, and maybe this is not a good assumption, that it would be less expensive now to remove them now that they're down, like cut them up and get them out, or would it be just as expensive?
I would suggest we have another contractor. We did a little bit of research. There's another contractor that we can reach out to come and provide a quote for the 2 down trees and the other trees that are there. And I'll work with internally to at least get the one tall tree removed, the one that's within our right of way on the bank there. So yeah, we can get another quote. I'll meet with the property owners, the Florix, and see. I do agree. We all need to try to figure out a plan to remove as many of the tall trees along the banks as possible, for obvious reasons. So I'll just pause there. I can answer some of those other questions when we're ready. But
Okay. Is it just the one contractor that you have another contractor you were thinking? What about some of these other suggestions, like the California Conservation Corps and I don't know, some other suggestions?
yeah, so early on, I, at the suggestion of one of the members of the public in attendance, I did reach out to CCC, and they were not available till after right around the holidays. They were booked up. The price, don't quote me, I want to say it was $14,000 a week. And it was just, what she said was it was a large crew, and they were very skilled at clearing vegetation. Specifically, that crew had been used to clear pathways to allow for equipment to make their way to whatever the equipment's destination was. The point being, when the creek dries out a bit, I think that's a great idea. Again, and going back to Ms. Beerley's comment, yes, the district has the authority to go into the creek and maintain it. The tricky part is, once wildlife is established, I'll say, and that could be plants or animals in the creek, then Fish and Wildlife has authority over that wildlife, I'll say, or living entities. And so, unfortunately, we still have to get a permit through them. Unless it's a storm emergency and things are happening, sometimes there's methods and procedures that agencies will say, well, you know, it's an emergency, it's a matter of life, and it's a life safety issue, and you can do certain things. Additionally, the state water board, anytime you can introduce sediment into a channel, they require you to get a permit from them. So if we were going to have a Conservation Corps or some other folks working in the channel, we'll need to reach out to the state water board. Now, the good news is, you know, when they see urgent situations, they, at least during the past year, they've seemed to be, you know, amenable to alleviating those situations. When it's not an urgent situation, then perhaps in the past, they've been, it's been, other experiences from other folks have said that it's been somewhat, you know, difficult to get some of those permits and things. But when you have living plants and animals, we need a permit from Fish and Wildlife, and when you're going to be able to, when you have the possibility of introducing dirt and silt into a waterway, then we have to get a water board permit. So it's kind of the world we live in. So.
Okay, and were there any other questions that you needed to respond to, or from what comments that have been made? I think that's it, right?
I think that's it. Yeah.
Okay. Are there any further comments or questions from the trustees? Any additional public comment? Okay, so what I'd like to do, Steve, is maybe next meeting have another quote that we could actually take a vote on, because we haven't actually voted on this yet. So, and just for my own information, Sean, in order to take a vote, how would we have to word this agenda item? Something like consider and adopt a resolution? Is that the language I have to use?
Right, some of that effect. It doesn't have to be, you know, something in particular, but yeah, it needs to say you're going to take action on it. You're going to vote on it. You're going to, you know, move on it, not just discuss.
Okay, thank you. All right, then let's move on to a presentation on warning and alert platforms from our friend Madison Mitchell.
Good evening, board. Good evening, everyone. With the weather continuing with this rainy weather, and we're expecting even more rain in the next couple months, according to the National Weather Service, we can expect a higher than normal rainy season. So I thought it might be good to go through a presentation to outline some of our most common and most broadly used alert and warning systems here in San Benito County. One moment, and I will pull the presentation up for you. One moment while Ariel pulls the presentation up for us. While she does this, I also have a couple boxes of weather radios. So they're emergency weather radios. We've discussed them in the past, but I will continue to bring them while we still have availability. So if you don't already have an emergency weather radio, they get notifications straight from the National Weather Service or the National Oceanic Administration, the NOAA system. So please go ahead and grab one of those. They're in the back if you'd like one. There's also copies of the presentation in the back as well. And if you'd like, I can email out the presentation if you'd like a digital copy. Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, so we're just going to go through this presentation. It's really general. I'm only going to highlight some of our most commonly used platforms here within our county, specifically with the Office of Emergency Services and some of our emergency services partners. First thing, I just want to address what an alert is versus what a warning is. So a warning, as you can see, it alerts you, well, a warning is a signal that's going to alert you to some type of event that could potentially be dangerous or problematic. Whereas an alert can be a notification that's triggered by a specific event, but not necessarily one that can lead to danger. So when we think about a warning, you might see a flood warning. That's a specific event that triggers that warning that could potentially be dangerous to either life or property, whereas we can send out alerts to alert you of like a community event. So the difference between an alert and warning, just very simple, but just to throw that out there. Some of the alert and warning platforms I want to address tonight are SBC Alert. That's one of our newest platforms here in San Benito County. It's also referenced as Genesis, so we're going to discuss that a little bit. Nixle, our social media accounts here in San Benito County, what you should be following if you wish to have the most up-to-date information on emergency notifications and alerts and warnings. 211, which is another emergency notification platform San Benito County takes participation in, and also the NOAA system. So this first slide is going to address SBC Alert, also known as Genesis. So this is a brand new platform that San Benito County transitioned to within the last 6 months, I would say. So the reason why we transitioned to this platform is because we contract with regional 911 system out of Santa Cruz, and they were making the transition, which of course came at a cost to them. But because we contract with them, this transition came free to San Benito County. So it really works in our benefit. This is a great emergency notification system. And what's great about this system is there are multiple ways you can opt in. You can opt in by going to the website and opting in, or you can text 65513 on your smartphone or your mobile phone and get notifications that way as well. You can choose to opt in to notifications via email, via text, and there also are emergency notifications via landline. So we did do an emergency alert test with this platform recently. If you were signed up with code RED, you were automatically imported into the system. So if you were signed up with code RED in the past, you are in the system already, so not to worry. Another platform for alert and warnings that we use in San Benito County is Nixle. So we do have a Nixle account, and what's great about the Nixle account is it can be utilized again for alerts and for warnings. So if there's an emergency incident going on within San Benito County, Nixle will send out an emergency notification. Also, there is a community aspect to this platform that will allow alerts for different community events as well. Again, this is a great platform. I highly recommend signing up for this. San Benito County has the authority to send out some warnings and alerts on it. And also there are automatic warnings that go out through Nixle, through the state and other agencies for emergency services. So weather alerts and warnings often come out through Nixle, and those are not sent out by San Benito County, but instead by respective agencies that issue weather-related warnings and emergency notifications. What's great about Nixle is you can sign up online, or you can also text our zip code, so 95023 to 888777, and that's how you can enroll in this notification system as well. You can choose to get notifications specifically for our jurisdiction at 95023, but that being said, you can enroll into multiple zip codes at one time as well. So if you're interested in seeing how our neighbors at Santa Clara County, or Monterey County, or Santa Cruz County are being impacted, this is a great way to see what's happening in those jurisdictions, both alert-wise, community events, and warnings, emergency notifications. Another emergency notification I'd like to discuss is 211. This is also an opt-in system, so you can opt in online or by calling this toll-free number, or again, texting the zip code to 898-211. And so this is a notification system, and what's great about this notification system, although the manpower is small, so we don't have that many staff members working on this emergency platform, the language options are plentiful. So they have over 150 language options, and they're a 24/7 emergency notification platform. So this is also a great platform to opt in if you're looking for 24/7 access, and especially additional languages. I want to talk about NOAA. We kind of discussed those emergency weather radios that we've got in the back. If you don't have one, please do. Notifications come directly from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. Our emergency weather radios in the back are pre-programmed for San Benito County. They come with batteries. All you have to do is pop them in, and you will be given notifications for all weather-related emergencies. As of right now, they are working towards providing additional emergency notifications as well outside of those weather-related ones. That's to be determined. The weather radios also have capability for Spanish and French languages, so that's also a great tool. So please look into grabbing one of those. Another alert and warning platform everyone really should be following if you're looking to get the most up-to-date community events and emergency incident information are our county social media pages. Right here, what I have highlighted is the Office of Emergency Services social media pages. We have a Linktree website, which is kind of collectively houses the links to all of our social media accounts that can be found on our county website under the Office of Emergency Services. At the bottom of our homepage, there's a link that says follow us on social media, and it will take you directly to our link tree, and you can utilize or choose whichever platform you utilize to follow the Office of Emergency Services for San Benito County. We will push out all emergency updates and notifications. That being said, we also highly recommend you follow the San Benito County government social media pages, Facebook, Instagram, their Nextdoor account, as well as San Benito County Sheriff, the City of Hollister as well. All of our county agencies have great social media platforms that they're continuously posting notifications and alerts for their respective events. And of course, the emergency services agencies will also post emergency related information as well. One other thing I just quickly want to address is the IPAWS system, the Integrated Public Alert and Warning System, and the WIA system, which is the Wireless Emergency Alert System. So this system, whether we like it or not, we will be getting notifications from. I just want to make it very clear that San Benito County, the local jurisdiction, and the state have nothing to do with the IPAWS or the WIA alerts and warning messages. These are specifically straight from the federal government. It's FEMA's emergency alert system and platform, and so they push out information. Sometimes local jurisdictions can push out what's called the IPAWS message, but it has to be a very critical incident for us to do that, just because it's not an opt-in system. Anybody who has a smart device or a wireless device will be getting that notification. So if you have gotten an IPAWS message or a WIA message in the past, just know it very likely did not come from the local jurisdiction. In fact, the state has issued a few of them in the last couple years, and the local jurisdictions gave a lot of pushback. This is a federal tool only, typically. So if you're getting an iPause or it was not from us, but do know it's likely very important. So please, read those messages if you tend to get one. That is the end of my presentation. I have no clue what this line is. I apologize. Do I have any questions I can answer for you guys about some of the county alert and warning systems? No?
Thank you, Madison. Is there any public comment?
If you'd like to make a comment in chambers, please provide a speaker card, and on Zoom use a raise hand icon featuring by dialing *9. It appears we have one public comment via Zoom. Anthony Botello, you have been unmuted.
Thank you. Madison, great report. Looks like there's several different options a person could use to get their information. I know if I lived in a area that was prone for flooding, I would be signed up. If I lived in an area that's high risk fire, I'd be signed up. Two things I want to ask you. What is the outreach to, our community, especially the Spanish speaking community in our area there? And also, do we have any idea what percentage of people within those high hazard areas are signed up to emergency communications, and how can we outreach even more so to make sure everybody is aware of what's going on when there is a hazard? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Botello. So unfortunately, I don't have any of the data on our outreach, specifically with our social media accounts or our opt-in platforms. That being said, that's definitely data I can pull. I will say with our newest platform, SBC Alert, the county submitted a request to our elections department. If you look under the state of California, there is a list of exceptions to release some of our voter registration information, and under that exception, it's listed in emergency notifications. So our county, the Office of Emergency Services, submitted the request to our elections department, and our elections department gave us, I want to say, 30,000 registrant information that we inputted into our alert and warning system. Whether or not it is a separate group of individuals for that notification system, so they will only be getting those alerts and warnings if it's an absolute emergency incident. So our reach can be relatively large, but it has to be a warranting incident to utilize that information. That being said, we are working closely with our community-based organizations and our nonprofits and our faith-based organizations to try to identify those partners within our community that already have good rapport with some of our most vulnerable community members, specifically those where we have a language barrier. So we did learn during the storm that was really prevalent, and so we've been working towards addressing that information gap and that reach in information to those communities specifically. The county has pursued a grant, and we've hired a community resiliency coordinator specifically to work on addressing some of those communication gaps. So I'm hoping within the next year we have a relatively robust community-based organization committee that can really address the spread of information as it pertains to critical incidences and emergency notifications.
We have an additional comment via Zoom. Rochelle Beerley, you have been unmuted.
Hi, Madison. I wanted to ask a quick question on, you mentioned the NOAA agency, and that's the site that I use to check the water level of the dam when, in times of need or when I have storms. And I was just wondering, do you know how they get their readings? Because they seem to be updated on the hour. and they call them an observed value or water level. So wondering, do you know how they get that and how accurate it is? Thank you.
Hi, Rochelle. So I do have some information on how that data is collected. Those readings are taken straight from the data which is received to that specific waterway. So most waterways and rivers have some type of measuring tool within them, and so that reading comes directly from that measuring tool. The accuracy, in my opinion, is and can be questionable. Some of these instruments are at hard to reach locations, haven't been serviced. We experienced in this last flooding incident in 2023, a number of the tools actually were malfunctioning or had broken, so they weren't giving accurate reads. So I can't really speak on the accuracy of the reading. That being said, I do know that most major waterways have some type of measuring tool within them to provide that data to the NOAA administration.
Yeah, I actually go to that website quite a bit myself, the one that Rochelle just mentioned. It's the National Weather Service hydrograph. And if you look at it, they do have a location, a map with a location, an approximate location of where this gauge is. And it's right off of 152. It's pretty close to Casa de Fruta. It's Walnut Avenue, which is right off of 152. So that's where their gauge is, supposedly. And I don't know how accurate it is, but I do know that last year I was following it pretty closely, and every time they said that it was going to flood, we flooded. So it was pretty invaluable for me personally. And I felt bad actually afterwards because I knew we were going to flood, but apparently a lot of my neighbors didn't, and were really caught by surprise. And so I felt bad about that because I could have told them based on past experience from 2017 and looking at this particular gauge. But anyway, that's so. All right, is there any other public comment on this issue?
Yes, there appears to be one public comment in chambers. Mark Schroeder, you may approach the podium.
Yes, Mark Schroeder. Just real quick, I'm from the Midwest originally, and the natural disaster of choice, so to speak, in the Midwest is the tornadoes, thunderstorms, extreme weather in that fashion. And pre-internet, and actually they still have them, but the warning for tornadoes, because it is a real big deal when the tornado it not only appears on the radar, but actually comes down from the cloud and makes ground contact, was very loud sirens. And everybody knew what that was. And I was wondering whether that might be an option for a fairly local area if we had directed horns, sirens, horns, that kind of thing, if they were long enough range.
I can only speak on personal experiences in regards to sirens. I do know that in the past, a few different communities have approached emergency services agencies within our county and requested sirens. And I do know in the past, the general consensus from the county and emergency services has not been in favor of them. That being said, the Pacheco Stormwater District is its own legal district, and property owners are their own individual property owners. So do what you will with that information. I do know that likely the county is not interested in sirens, but that's something that can be discussed in further detail with emergency services agencies, likely the sheriff's office, if you are interested in pursuing that.
It appears Rochelle Beerley has an additional comment. Rochelle, you've been unmuted.
Rochelle, the tech problems are striking again. We cannot hear you. Yeah, your voice is garbled. I'll tell you what. We'll come back if the tech problems are resolved. Then maybe you can give your comment during the next agenda item.
Rochelle, you can log out and log back in to see if the technical difficulties might go away.
Okay, then if there's no other public comment on this issue, we'll move on for now.
There appears to be no further public comment.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so the next item is a discussion of future agenda items. And there were a couple things sort of inadvertently left off this month. So the insurance issue, there's sort of an update on that, but we'll save that until next month. We'll put that on the next agenda. That's the liability insurance and the director's liability insurance, as well as general liability. Another thing that was left off inadvertently is our ongoing public outreach efforts, including the sign that we are working on to publicize the meetings, the sign on Lover's Lane. So we'll put that on the next agenda as well. Also, there was a suggestion last time about potentially, the idea of the district doing its own maintenance and buying its own equipment. And so we will put that on the next agenda too. The whole idea of, for lack of a better word, what I'm calling community-led maintenance. Another word, DIY, another way to look at it, do it yourself. So we will further discuss that, but I think we do have a public comment regarding that.
Yes. Mark Schroeder, you could please approach the podium.
How do I switch to, can I,
Yes.
how do I switch to
The
the?
PowerPoint, I believe it's open.
Oh,
on
I
the-
see. Okay, that's, I've seen it on, here on the screen. Thank you. Okay. There it is. Okay. The idea behind this is just a real quick informational presentation on what is available out there as far as used equipment, so that we have a rough idea how much it'll end up costing, both outright and some of the so-called hidden costs. And that includes, of course, transportation, any kind of insurance, and that kind of thing. Some of this information that's listed on here is not yet available, but the following couple of slides provides some of the preliminary information. And we will be meeting as a group, which includes Armando as one of the trustees, and Mr. Bill Florek. We'll be getting together and taking a look at these things and any additional suggestions in order to bring up at the next meeting, as suggested by the chair, what it is that we're going to end up doing, and eventually perhaps bringing to a purchase of something, or whether to do anything. But hopefully this information given here will lead us in the correct direction. This slide here is just an informational slide just to show a smattering of things available. And this is a subset of some of the research that I did. Some of the sources of information include eBay, the machinery trader website, some U.S. government and state government surplus outfits, which are generally subcontractors or contractors that have been obtained by the government, whatever branch, in order to get rid of their surplus equipment for them, and they take a percentage. What we're looking at is a variety of US-made, German, and Japanese, and one Chinese make, and a variety of hours. And there's some primary things that are important here, and I'll go over that on the next slide very quickly, but we've got a variety of horsepowers, weights, and reach of the equipment, and some of that is more important than other pieces, but and also the choice of the excavator as a piece of equipment. That was one of the assumptions, prima facie original assumptions that I made that I thought would be valuable over some other types of equipment. So that's why we're seeing only that here. But amongst that particular group, the listing of what's available out there in the smattering shows everything from 80,000 pounds down to about 25 to 26,000 pounds gross weight. And it's generally considered that heavier is going to be better when it comes to tracked vehicles, and that lower hours, as listed in red here, is better than longer hours, although it depends on the make, and it also depends on whether it was abused or not, and so on. So there's a lot of factors involved in that. Further considerations, we'll go into that the next and last slide. I went ahead and I took some statistics of the 8 pieces of equipment shown on the previous graph as far as tonnage is concerned. And in addition to that, on the right-hand graph, the horsepower. And note that all of these are tracked vehicles, which I personally consider to be very important, and I believe that that's and we'll get together and we'll take suggestions from everybody and do a little bit more research, and perhaps reach out to some experts that we know, including the guy over there, about what these assumptions that were originally made, including, I left off wheeled vehicles. I just didn't think that that would be a good idea, but we'll find out more about that as time continues. But this is the type of information that we've got so far. It's a snapshot. It'll provide some decision-making capability as time continues. These things were also chosen because they fit well within the amount of money that the district apparently has currently, with a median amount of just over $30,000. Of course, that's the outright payment. There's a lot more that's involved in it, and that includes insurance and so on. But I will not bore you with any further details, so I'll wait until the next meeting to let you know more. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other public comment?
Yes, we have a public comment via Zoom. Anthony Patello, you have been unmuted.
That's a good report. From my experience with equipment, which I've had a lot of, both in the public sector and in the private sector running my business, these are real specialized equipment. You need an operator, and you need to put hours if you're spending that kind of money on them. I just kind of feel that we're too small of a district, in all honesty, to have a excavator. If you use the excavator for about 2 weeks every other year, in the district of our size right now, that's probably all you need. And to maintain a piece of equipment like that, if something goes wrong, well, heck, we all take our pickups or cars to the shop, you multiply that with a tractor, and you multiply that with a heavy piece of specialized equipment like this. If you could find an operator, and 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 that's another problem. It just doesn't. I don't think it makes a whole lot of sense in this direction. That's just my opinion, and I could be wrong. Thanks.
It appears we have no further public comment.
Okay, are there any other comments or questions from the trustees? Okay. Oh, there's one other item actually that I thought about for future agenda items, and that is, we've talked in the past about expanding the eligibility of board members, and we found out from Sean, our legal counsel, that we cannot expand eligibility to non-resident property owners. But we haven't really talked about what we would need to do to expand the geographical boundaries of the district. So I've asked Sean to look into that, and hopefully by next meeting he'll have a report for us. Okay, so if is there any other comment or?
Yes, Brasher Beerley, you have been unmuted.
Am I live?
Yes.
Yes, Rochelle.
I was wondering, that was a nice presentation that was just done on the equipment, and I was wondering, every time we do a project, does it have to be done with fair wages, or like with the tree issue and with the the potential future clean out issues? If we can find, if we decide that, the equipment is too much for us, as Anthony Patel mentioned possibly, if we have a source, local people that have this equipment to rent it out, along with an operator, and we pay them, do all of our transactions have to be done with fair wages? That's my question. Thank you.
Well, perhaps you mean prevailing wages, or what is the term of art that is used, Steve?
Yeah, that's correct. Prevailing wages. I could venture a guess, but I don't know. Sean might want to research that a bit. Like for the county, we have a pretty low threshold when prevailing wages is triggered. I don't know the answer for the water district. So.
Yeah, I don't know offhand, but it's probably the same. Or similar. Yeah.
Hello, Madison Mitchell, San Benito County OES. I also do not know the answer to that question. That being said, just to think outside the box a little bit, quite often my office will submit letters of commitment for grants where one agency will purchase equipment and then gift it to another agency who will then maintain that equipment and often do some type of work in return. I don't know if that's something that could be done here, or often I've seen grants purchase equipment and that agency will utilize that equipment for one or so projects and then they gift it to another agency. So I know in the past the city of Hollister has pursued grants where they will be purchasing equipment to be gifted later to the county of San Benito, and potentially that could be something the district could look into, with some type of agreement to help maintain whatever it is, that project is going towards. Just to think outside the box, I don't know if that's actually relevant or something that can be pursued here, and I'm sure the county doesn't like that. Sorry, Steve. But I do know that I've seen that happen in the past.
Okay, thank you, Madison. Let's see. So are there any comments from the trustees, or Steve, did you have anything that you wanted to add?
On the note of grants and gifting, if county, Pacheco Stormwater District somehow gets a grant one way or another, it sounds like something worth considering as far as that type of thing. I think one of the considerations for that is, well, yeah, I'll leave it at that. But yeah, I think the county would be amenable to that and trying to help the district. Let's just say the district hypothetically received a grant for the excavator or other piece of equipment. I wouldn't expect the district to gift it to the county, but maybe we could figure out a way to find an operator somehow, some way, through one of our sources, our resources, to help out with that. So, long story short, we'll partner with the district any way we can. So,
Okay, thank you. All right, well, if there's no further public comment or further ideas for agenda items, I think we can move on to adjournment. Or is there?
Yes, Brochure Beerley, you have been muted.
Do you mind if I circle back to the emergency question while Madison is there?
Oh, no, go right ahead.
Okay, I just wanted to ask, on your presentation, Madison, on emergency protocol, who decides when the streets are closed or which streets are closed? Because during the height of the flood, San Felipe and I'm pretty sure Lovers Lane were open. And, as the water's rushing across the street and the semi-trucks were like tire high with water, there's a lot of traffic going up and down and causing a lot of waves and currents and further flooding damage. So I was wondering who's in charge of that, and can we get a better hold on that in the future? Thank you.
Hello, Rochelle. Madison Mitchell, San Benito County Office of Emergency Services. So when we discuss road closures often happen from the law branch. So the Sheriff's Department, which is our highest authority, legal jurisdictional authority here in San Benito County, or even the California Highway Patrol. So when we talk about closures, often it's going to be one of those agencies. Potentially Steve's team, or Roads Department, could also close roads. I will say we did have some problems with road closures and signs being taken down, removed, vehicles just not listening to the signage and the warnings that we had posted. And unfortunately, our staffing is limited here in San Benito County, and CHP also, we're very limited staff. So we were unable to post law enforcement officers at every road closure. That being said, I don't know, Steve, if you have any additional commentary on that, but if you're looking at road closures, likely CHP or the Sheriff's Department or our Roads Department, potentially my office, but most of that is all information we get from our field representatives, so our emergency services personnel. Roads are closed because it is dangerous for them to be open. So if you see signs that look like they've been pushed off the road or are in the ditch next to the road, please either contact San Benito County, our Roads Department, or even my office, the Office of Emergency Services, so we can verify if that road should actually be closed and potentially the signage was just removed.
And I'll echo Madison's statements. The hierarchy that she noted is correct. It's law enforcement, and then it's our Roads Department. And unless there is a living, breathing individual, law enforcement person physically at the location of the road closures, they're pretty regularly ignored. I personally was witness to at least 3 folks that drove around or through or over our road closure barricades. 2 of those folks proceeded to get stuck in flooded waters, and then we had to extract them from the flooded waters. But unless there's a person right there, people often ignore our road closure barricades, unfortunately. So.
That being said, if you do see a road you believe should be closed and it doesn't look like it is closed, again, please contact our roads department, the non-emergency number or emergency, depending on how dangerous the situation is. You can call 911, and even if it's not an emergency, it will be dispatched to the appropriate agency for response. Please contact somebody, and we can at some point hopefully get somebody out there to close the road or to station the road closure signs back in the middle of the road if they've been removed. I do know that last year during the 2023 flooding events, we staged some of our local search and rescue volunteers. That being said, they are not legal law enforcement officers and therefore have no legal jurisdiction to enforce a road closure. But again, if you see something, please just say something, and we will do our best to ensure that people are not putting themselves in harm's way or property owners and property in harm's way if we can.
Okay, thank you. Any other public comment?
It appears that we do not have further public comment.
Okay, then is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
A motion that we adjourn this meeting?
Is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, meeting is adjourned. See you next month. Thank you, everyone.